Hi, I'm Sarah Cowgill, along with Dave Patterson, Graham Noble, Scott Cosenza, and John Clark. And this is the Conservative Five, Liberty Nation News online TV news program. With the release of the so-called Twitter files, an extensive effort by the Joe Biden administration to censor free speech was exposed for all to see. The administration coordinated with, or one might say pressured, tech companies and specifically social media platforms to remove or at least suppress certain opinions or even factual media reports it found unfavorable. The Select Subcommittee on the Weaponization of the Federal Government has been posting that Amazon files that show the censorship operation targets not just online speech, but also books. Banning books in this day and age when the subject questions the narrative. Dangerous practice, Graham? Fill us in on the do not promote edict.
Yeah, well, we're finding out now that as part of the whole collusion efforts between the Biden administration and various big tech companies, what I find most disturbing about this is even more disturbing than the fact that the federal government is trying to silence opinions it doesn't like or suppress information it doesn't like, is the fact that these tech companies are so eager to go along with it when the administration starts to kind of twist their arm a bit. In Amazon's case, a senior employee from Amazon who shall not be named because his or her name is redacted in the released information. But this individual sent out an email, basically an internal email, and saying, "Okay, I have installed a new what they call do not promote class." And that is, we're going to use this because and it says in this email, it said, with the impetus behind this is the Biden administration complaining to us about certain books that we are promoting on the Amazon site. And so when we are going to make an effort to not promote those books anymore. And they drew up a list of 43 books. And all of the books on this list, the subject matter that they all have in common is vaccines and the pharmaceutical industry. Now, it is true that some of these books on this list could definitely be described as anti-vaccine books. They are books that claim, and I emphasize claim, I'm not saying this personally, but the books claim that vaccines either do not work or actually damage the body's immune system, or for one reason or another, just should be avoided altogether. Some of the books on that list made those claims. Other books did not. Other books were based on legitimate scientific studies of vaccines and the efficacy of vaccines, various different ones. We're not just talking about COVID vaccines here. And others of these books were actually aimed at children, and they were not anti-vaccine at all. One particular book on this list was literally written by someone who said, all I want to do is promote love and understanding between people. And the whole point of the book was teaching children, look, whether you're vaccinated or not vaccinated, you shouldn't, that shouldn't be a point of contention between you and your fellow children, your friends. If they're vaccinated and you're not vaccinated, you shouldn't see that as a problem, and vice versa. And that's all the book said. It wasn't pro-vaccine book. It wasn't an anti-vaccine book. It was like, can't we just all get along whether we're vaccinated or not? And even that book was offensive to the Biden administration, apparently.
Well, because we can't all get along, because those of us who aren't vaccinated and those of us who are vaccinated tend to think the other is an idiot. I mean, there is no common ground anymore. Hey, John Clark, Graham touched on the kid thing, the kids' books about vaccinations. But I mean, I kind of think there's a subtle message there. Well, I met Timmy and he's not vaccinated. Should he still be my friend? I mean, I still think that's a little bit of a poke. Did I just turn into a conspiracy theorist?
Well,
I
I would.
don't know.
Sorry, John, if you would give me a moment there to jump in on that. One thing I would say about that particular book is there really was no kind of hidden agenda in that book, because in fact the one illustration from that book that was published on the X social media platform by Representative Jim Jordan as part of the reveal of these Amazon files. He showed a page from this book, and it was actually a young boy saying to his mother, um, "Can I be friends with uh, can I be friends with the kids who got their shots?"
But the
And the
core
mother's
question
saying,
is what.
absolutely you can be, and I'd be disappointed if you weren't. So the book wasn't taking a kind of little dig at unvaccinated people. It was just saying whether you're vaccinated or not, you should be able to still get along.
Why was the book banned? That's the question then. Why is it
So
on the do not promote list?
My theory is because progressives do not like the idea of parents actually parenting at all. And so, because the book was about parents advising their children to be friends with the vaccinated or the unvaccinated, that was the no-no. There was another book on the list that was actually a guide for parents about this is why these are a bunch of scientific studies, and based off of these studies, this is this is how you should think about whether or not you want your children vaccinated. And that book was also banned because it was about, it was advice to parents about how to deal with their children. And of course, progressives ultimately believe that all children should be wards of the state.
All right, John, I know that as soon as you knew what our subjects were this week, that you went all over the place looking for some great input. So give your great input now, please.
Well, it dovetails exactly with what Graham's saying, but I'd take a step back as a lawyer and a big fan of the First Amendment and look at this in context and what its real implications are. I mean, what we have is a clear case of an unconstitutional government interruption of free information and free speech. And as Graham pointed out, I mean, these were being done even before vaccines were available, number one, and including, according to Jim Jordan, anything that was anti-big pharma. So this is government protecting a corporate entity that has full immunity from its products that government is paying for, mandating. And yes, you mustn't hang out with people that are unvaccinated because they might get you sick from, the disease that you have a vaccine against. I mean, yeah, it's the narrative was controlled early on. This is devastating, it seems to me. This isn't a free speech intrusion to stop white supremacists from spreading books about why Black people are evil. This isn't shutting down extremist rhetoric, as Graham pointed out. Let me read you two titles. This is a 2011 book called The Vaccine Book: Making the Right Decision for Your Child. Mm-hmm. Well, these revelations show the Biden administration wanted to make all the decisions for your children before the product was even tested or available. And we're using Amazon and others to do so. The other book that Graham mentioned is called Miller's Review of Critical Vaccine Studies, 400 important scientific papers summarized for parents and researchers. Well, why wouldn't you ban that? Now, as Joe Biden says that Trump and the Republicans are the threats to democracy, and we see no accountability for a blatant and overt and totally shameless intrusion into basic fundamental liberties, do you think Americans are paying attention? And do you think perhaps there are people on the left, Democrats, who have questioned these vaccines and are starting to see that this extends to parental involvement in your children's decisions about everything, including what they eat and what sex they are? And so this ultimately relates back to San Francisco. The plan is to destroy and deconstruct, and we see it now. We're peering behind that curtain in these revelations about Amazon. This is damning stuff for Joe Biden, while claiming that Trump is the threat to democracy and free speech, while they undermine parents' abilities to get basic real science to make informed medical decisions for the children. This is the government doing this. Is egregious. It's astounding.
Okay, I'm going to bring in our other. I can't believe we have two lawyers on today.
Don't hate us. Don't hate us.
Anyway, Scott, I mean, can't this be said it's just it's a corporate edict? I mean, can't Amazon claim we're not violating free speech. We're just doing what we want to do. I mean, I can go on Amazon and buy Mein Kampf if I want to. I don't understand all of the
Another copy, Sarah? I thought the one that you have isn't
it's too dog
well
eared.
read enough. I just want to say that I think that the right attitude for all Americans is always to oppose any time the government says to a bookseller, we don't like the books you're selling. I don't care. I reject, I mean, I appreciated it, but also I reject the entire notion that we should delve into the content and the propriety of it and say that it isn't even that odious. Who cares if it's odious or not? The federal government has no business telling a bookseller, hey, don't sell this book. A school library is one thing. A government-funded school library, yes, Sarah, to your point, there's First Amendment implications there. But the other First Amendment implication is, why is the government leaning on any speech at all that it doesn't prefer? That seems totally inappropriate, and something, back in the day before the liberals became progressives, that liberals would, maybe join hands with conservatives on, or at least conservatarians on that issue. But that is, I think, where we need to be. Just real outrage anytime the word goes out that they leaned on booksellers, or in the future, there probably won't even be any booksellers. So it'll be publishers like LibertyNation.com or something else where, ideas are spread. Why is the government involved? Like, they don't have enough problems. They got to worry about that. Well, only to stop the spread of ideas. I think that the current guidance, by the way, is that they want the kids who are vaccinated to go throw rocks at the houses of the kids that are unvaccinated. That seems to be the social impetus I'm getting. And the CDC, I think, is now on booster number 10, if you're paying attention. That's the current guidance from the federal government. Get that 10th booster.
Are you going to be embalmed by then, or how's that working for everybody? All right. Well, the Twitter files, the Amazon files, ugh, government officials demanding that private companies censor free speech. It's not a good look for an administration that claims to be defending freedom and democracy. And as you heard it on this panel today, who's the boogeyman on this? It's not the Republican Party, it seems. That's it for our Conservative 5 panel today. Check out our other C5 shows and segments on your favorite video platform, YouTube, Vimeo, Rumble. We're on them all. As well, Liberty Nation News has its own Roku channel where you can see all of our TV productions. I'm your host, Sarah Cowgill. Thanks for joining us today for Free Thinking, Free Speech, LibertyNation.com.